Hello everybody and welcome back to another CB Show Tunes tutorial. Now today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up the waypoint system for our character. As you can see, the character is walking around inside of his waypoint movement. And of course if I move into his range, he is going to chase me. Move back out of range, he's going to return back to his waypoint system. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now the first thing we want to be able to do is we want to be able to create a waypoint script. So if you have a scripts folder, make sure to go over here into your, I guess you could say, project panel or scripts folder, go over to create and select C# script. From there you're going to call it waypoint control. Keep in mind we are going to be using our AI behavior or base controller from the previous couple tutorials, so if you do not have the script, make sure to go back and check it out before we actually get into this tutorial. Okay, so at the top, as you can see, it requires this component of our base AI controller. We're going to be utilizing its movement or its targeting destination, so just keep that in mind. Right here at the top of our variables, we have a public transform set as an array. And we're going to call that waypoints. This way we could utilize empty game objects inside of Unity and simply drop them into the inspector and be able to use them that way. We also have an integer for our current waypoint, and we have a public float for our stopping distance. Now, depending on the size of your AI, I guess you could say size, you will need to adjust this accordingly. Alright, and the last variable we're going to be using is of course our base AI controller. We're going to call that AI, and what we're going to do is that our void start function is we're going to simply cast to that object. Alright, inside of our late update function we're going to simply ask our AI controller, so we're going to be asking our base AI control. We're going to say, can we see the player? So if you follow along into the previous tutorial with our visual sensor, we determined whether or not our character was visibly seeing the player or not. If we can see the player, we don't want the waypoint system to be working. We want it to actually stop. But if we can't see the player, we want the AI to actually constantly be moving to a new location. So just keep that in mind. Alright, right here, we're going to simply check and make sure if our AI target is null. So we don't want this to equal null whenever we end up just playing or moving to a destination, because with our vector 3 motion instead of our base AI controller, we want ourselves to be able to constantly move to a target. Otherwise it's going to return to the zero space of the world. So what we have here is we simply say we're going to set the target equal to our current waypoint. So waypoints, the array value, and then of course the integer of that array. Next we're going to be determining the distance between our current position and the current waypoint location. Now if our distance is less than or equal to that stopping distance variable, then we want to be able to set up a new waypoint. Now for this waypoint, all we need to do is simply say if our current waypoint is equal to our waypoints.length minus 1, because this is an integer versus an array. And arrays start at 0 while integers normally start at 1. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, or what we're going to do if it is equal to this, we're going to set our current waypoint equal to 0. Otherwise, we're going to set our current waypoint plus by 1. So anytime that you see like a plus plus or a negative negative, that just means we're going to increment this value by 1. Lastly, we're going to set the target. So we're going to say AI target is equal to the current waypoint selected, like so. So that's pretty easy to follow along. The last thing we want to be able to do is head over into our base AI control script, and what you want to do is make sure to roll up here to this distance check. Now it should be right underneath your animations. You're going to see this target not equal to null, and it's going to be running this distance check for the attack and all. And what I want you to do is just add on this and can see player. So we don't want it to attack unless we see a player. So that will simply allow us to remove that issue. Also, if you want the AI to pause and stay at this waypoint for a certain amount of time, you could always add that right here. So you could add a delay at this point. And just like that, we could head back over into Unity. Let it go ahead and compile real fast. And let's go ahead and create some new waypoints. So you can simply right click inside of the hierarchy, create empty object or whatnot, and simply drag it around. Preferably though, you want it to be on the ground. And let's go ahead and just duplicate that. And let's roll this. I guess we could roll this like way over here. And to add it to the waypoints, all you need to do is simply lock the inspector. So grab your zombie. Make sure you do grab the waypoint controller script and drop it on there. So I can actually reset that if I want to. So let's go ahead and... Oh, I actually hit edit. Okay, so... So I'm going to go ahead and remove this component. And what I want to do is now add the waypoint controller onto this zombie. So simply drag and drop. And as you can see, your waypoint's 0, stopping distance 1.5. Great. So for our waypoints, all I need to do is select this lock key at the top of my inspector, then simply shift and grab all my waypoints, drag and drop on top of the actual variable. Like if you try to drag it over here, it's not going to work, but just drag and drop right there. And the way that this is structured is that it's going to start from the top and move to the bottom. So if you want it to be from here to here to here and all that, then you need to be able to drag them in one at a time. So now if I press play, we're going to instantly be able to see this character moving to each individual waypoint. So he's going to move there, going to move there, and then he's going to head right over here where the other one was. And if I move in the way, he's going to start following me instead. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.